This is PJNET.TV, and this is my perspective and comments. In this video segment of My Perspective and Comments, we cover politics, society here and abroad, and the events of the day that are shaping our nation. PJNET.TV, My Perspective and Comment, coming to you with a worldview, one nation under God. Welcome to My Perspective and Comments. And I want to start out now and just remembering Queen Elizabeth, who on Thursday passed. And for me, it was, it was surprising because there hadn't been a time over the last few weeks where they were really concerned, but she met with Boris Johnson's replacement prime minister, the new prime minister, 2 days ago, and or 3 days ago, and then there was the reports had come out on Thursday this week that she was really ill and under medical supervision. And she passed on Thursday. She was, the queen and the monarch in her time frame for 70 years. She was 96 years old, and she was the longest reigning British monarch there in history. And she was staying at a place that she loved to go to get away and to relax, and that was at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. So right now, what we have is that we now have. Prince Charles has become, after her passing, Prince Charles is now the king, and his age is 73, and he became king after her death. So now he will be taking that mantle right now. I like to talk a bit about what's taken place here in New York. Kathy Hochul has just announced that New York commuters no longer are going to be required to wear masks on public transportation. Hochul said that, announced this on Wednesday, and this has been in place for the commuters. And this mask mandate for public transportation, it's been two plus years that this mandate has been in place. Now it will cover the rail lines like the Long Island Railroad, the Metro North, and the New York City subways and buses, and they're now going to, she still recommends, wearing a mask if you feel comfortable, but that has been lifted. But I ask myself, or ask you, why is this all of a sudden has she changed course? Well, it appears that there was a poll that has just come out, I believe it was over the weekend, that shows Lee Zeldin, who is running against her for the governor position, has pulled up into 4 points, 4 points of Kathy Hochul. So I have a suspicion that she might be loosening the reins and getting her boot off New Yorkers to favor some more votes, but that would fall into Hochul's playbook. I am getting so sick of what we're seeing around the nation right now, and it just an incident here in New York, just in my area, in our region, excuse me. What am I talking about? The men and women in the blue, have been demonized by the politicians on the left, and really, the cries to defund has gone out, and they truly have been demonized and handcuffed. And this past week, a Canastota police officer had been called in to investigate a person that was acting weird. So he came up upon this person, and the person went off and I guess pounded him in the face, and I guess probably broke some, from what I heard from some of the injuries, there might be an eye issue, broken socket or whatever, but the officer was operated on. The criminal was arrested, but what we're seeing is more and more of these incidents. Fight in New York City, 2 weeks ago, they caught on tape there, at the subways, a fisticuff with the cops. And right now what we're seeing is these thugs have been they're hearing the message from the politicians, and they're hearing what so-called bail reform has been doing, which is basically making no consequences for crimes. And what we're seeing is a revolving door of thugs coming in, and within an hour or two, they're back out on the streets committing more crime. And if there is no deterrent for committing crimes, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get more of it. And that's exactly what's happening. We're seeing it in New York. We're seeing it across the nation. And these George Soros attorneys, DAs, that are basically, they're part of it. They're part of decriminalizing these criminals, and it's pathetic what's taking place. But I think that the tides are turning. We're seeing more and more people that have been running this year for offices have been pointing out, what's going on with the crime rates that are going sky high in places like Chicago, Baltimore, New York City, Philadelphia. Lawlessness is going wild, and that's what we're seeing. What I'd like us to focus on right now, because there's a flashpoint here, or a wake-up call, a nation wake-up call, and we had, and it takes place in the Memphis, Tennessee area, and Eliza Fletcher, she was 34, and she was out jogging near a university, and this felon who should have been locked up in jail was out. And he abducted her, and they found her body this past Monday, and they have him in custody because there was they had video of the vehicle and him getting out and chasing after her. And then we had this 19-year-old in Memphis that was videotaping him killing people, and I believe there was 4 that were killed in that incident. So when you have politicians that are demonizing the police and the message has gone out, you can commit crimes, and guess what? You get a slap on the wrist and hardly any jail time, and it's a revolving door. And that's breeding more, hey, if there's no consequences, guess what's going to happen? And that's what we're seeing in our society right now in these blue cities primarily. Out of control crime and lawlessness taking place. Now this brings me to, I want us to, when we start talking about, the crime and what, these atrocities, this could very well be a flashpoint where, people are coming up and saying enough is enough. And I'd like us to I've got a video clip here of Steve Dace and Daniel Horowitz, and they will be talking of some various things, COVID issues, and they have been very strong in COVID, and they've helped me out a lot with bringing the frontline doctors that they've interviewed, and they have been calling foul when it comes to the misinformation that came from Fauci and NIH and the CDC and the like, and drugs that could help people were demonized, and you couldn't say it or you were banned from social media. But they were up front. They were looking at the numbers, and these two were very strong with looking at the numbers of cases and where where it was taking place, the illnesses, and really honing in on what were the numbers really saying, because we were seeing a lot in the news, but when you broke it down, it was enlightening, and they were ahead of the curve right from the beginning, 2 years plus, and they were sounding the alarm that something was wrong with the numbers and what are we doing to our society. So they're going to be talking about COVID, talking about Eliza Fletcher there in Memphis, and a variety of other things, and the GOP, those that are on the right that are supposed to be representing conservatives and Republicans. What are we getting? What are we getting when you look on the political stage and the people that are running for Senate, and are we putting forth the individuals that are going to, if they do get elected, that they're going to vote to help the conservatives and help Republicans and help get the boot off government and get this nation back on track? Or will we get the same old Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, go along to get along? So here, I'd like us to take a look here at this video clip with Steve Dace interviewing Daniel Horowitz, and they have a discussion talking about a variety of things that we're facing right now in our nation. Take a look.
Let's bring in the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation himself, the one and only Daniel Horowitz. It is good to see you again, my friend. How are you?
We are doing all right in this Fourth Reich. I mean, it could always be worse, Steve.
And it can always be worse. There are several things I want to address. Number one, you and I talked about this at length yesterday on Glenn Beck's show, but I want to reiterate one more time for those who may have missed it. The study that came out of Stanford, UCLA, scientists around the country, and Peter Doshi over at the British Medical Journal, which is their version of a JAMA or New England Journal of Medicine, that did, for the first time, a true risk assessment of the COVID jabs vis-a-vis serious COVID infection or event. Give us the bottom line one more time on what that study showed.
There's safety, there's efficacy, there's benefit, there's liability. You do a controlled trial where you have those exposed to the thing and those who aren't, the placebo group, the controlled group. Okay, you would expect the trial group to do better, right? Now, it's always going to be a debate. Who got COVID, who didn't? Who died of COVID, who died of the vaccine injury, who died of something else, who died naturally, was going to die anyway? Well, the best thing to look at is all-cause mortality. And we already saw that a long time ago, that there were more all-cause deaths in the placebo group, in the control group, in the trial group. I'm sorry. What this study did is they looked at all-cause severe adverse events of special interest, which essentially means hospitalizations, not perfectly, but hospitalizations, which could mean death, long-term disability. It was life-threatening at the time. So the highest level of a reaction to the shot or reaction to anything. All cause. And there was a net 12.5 per 10,000 greater chance of winding up in that position with a special serious adverse events of special interest among those who were in the trial group. Okay, that is, in other words, 1 in 800 people, or if you would extrapolate that, if that rate would hold up per the amount of people, 223 million that took the shots in the United States, and that's just 2 doses, that's 470,000 or so. And that doesn't factor in boosters or anything like that, which is going to grow that exponentially.
Right, because you're just multiplying the risk with every round of injection, every single time.
And again, this was likely when it had a little bit of efficacy. This was early on. The point is, this is not a new study. This is a follow-up of the outcomes of their own trial participants. What happened to them? They knew this early on.
Who's Eliza Fletcher?
She should be our version of George Floyd. And what I mean by that is...
Or who was she, actually?
Yes. Where you have a catalyzing moment that is so horrific that people realize you need systemic, remember that word, systemic changes to deal with a systemic problem. We were told that because of the George Floyd situation, first of all, he was the saint, the greatest human being alive. Every business, private sector, city had to indulge him, create a
no fentanyl addict had ever been more blessed than he. Yes.
Not a single human being alive, I believe. No one was allowed to have a funeral at that point, but he was allowed to have multiple ones, including indoors. And that there was a systemic problem that police are too tough on violent criminals. And we need to denude the justice system of policing, of tougher sentencing, of you name it, and just let criminals roam loose. Well, we did that, and we have record homicides, kidnappings, and carjackings in every major American city since that point. Well, Eliza Fletcher is, a 34-year-old mother, mother of 2, preschool teacher, lived a beautiful life that actually should be celebrated. She was out jogging, and this perpetrator, who now goes by Henderson, he changed his surname, allegedly planned a kidnapping attack, brutally killed her, and buried her body. And the thing is, it turns out that he had a massive criminal history dating back to the juvenile days, the same deal. Each one, he was lowballed in terms of punishment, so it created a reverse velocity that it took eons to get him behind bars. And once he did, it should have been for life, but it was for 24 years. But he got out a few years early for good time credits. Now, I just published on this. I'm the only one who has information, because I have sources down there that say he got the good time credits. Just to know what a joke good time credits are, he had several instances of indecent exposure. This is in prison. These are infractions. Somehow got illegal weapons, somehow got illegal drugs, tampering with security cameras, and he was let out. He had a rape charge, an aggravated kidnapping. So
this is Willie Horton kind of stuff, is what you're describing.
Yeah, when he was a juvenile. Okay, and then so he was serving for aggravated kidnapping that he would have killed the guy had he not escaped. But he was let go. And then I just found out he was let go about a year and a half ago. I just found out last year he was under investigation for, you guessed it, another rape. There's 3 layers to this, Steve. So there's the early time credits, which are a joke. You automatically get them. We need legislation, and they actually just passed this in Tennessee, but it's not retroactive, that for the 8 most violent crimes, you have to serve 100% of the sentence. Bill Lee, the dirtbag rhino pro-criminal whatever from Tennessee, actually opposed it, but he didn't have enough votes to veto it because they would have overrode his veto, so that is in place. Number 2, juveniles. If you're a violent criminal, if you kidnap, rape, and do things like that, as this guy did when he was a juvenile, you need to be sentenced the way an adult should be. And then again, an adult needs to be sentenced properly for that too. But you get the point. Reagan said this before, it's no solace to the victim that you're a juvenile. If it's rape, murder, kidnapping, things like that. I mean, maybe you'll go easier on other crimes like petty theft, which we go lenient anyway across the board, but not something like that. And number 3, so yesterday, I don't know if you saw this, Steve, one of the J6ers was initially incarcerated, initially sentenced after having a clean record his whole life for gesticulating at the Capitol. So if we could do that to initially lock someone up, certainly if someone was convicted rapist, kidnapper, and then they're released, there should be a trigger that if you're not on your best behavior, so this guy was reportedly soliciting sex from people and acting really problematic in some neighborhoods, but it wasn't something he was arrested for. But that should be enough to trigger a reincarceration with someone like that. The point is, Steve, I stood alone for 10 years, as you well know, being the only one saying we actually have an under-incarceration problem. There are thousands of people like Eliza Fletcher out there that just senselessly get killed every day. We think it's all kind of the drug wars and the gang wars, which is certainly true, but there's so much of this, and there is no organization on the right. There is no effort, no funding to audit the people out there that we know, that everyone would agree is a high-level repeat violent offender, that they really need to be taken off the streets, to go through and audit all the different ways they escape justice and close that. That should be our George Floyd movement that Eliza Fletcher should represent, but it won't. Republicans will throw in a vacuous line after having supported this agenda for 10 years, and they still do, by the way. Most Republican governors, including Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, don't defund the police. But the police that's a straw man, okay? The police just apprehend. And in fact, they're only used against us now. It's a matter of the sentencing and the entire system, from the prosecutors, the judges. That's where it's at. And there is no forward-looking agenda that I just laid out that I'm hearing from any Republican.
Can you betray your base on sacred issues like guns, and then vote for the feds to declare open lawfare and warfare on the American church, and because things are so bad, still win control of the Senate?
Yes, you can. And that's why they're doing it. I don't know how to say this nicely. I mean, Steve, you and I are in the minority on this point. Whether we like it or not, at present, conservative voters know one thing: you have to defeat the Democrats. And maybe the population of those who started to disagree with that grew from 1% to 2% among primary voters, but the overwhelming majority, and including swing voters, you look at the inflation, you look at all the crises, they want change. They're not going to get it, but, I don't think it will dampen it much. And just so you know what they're probably going to do with that, if I'm sure Chip Roy has said this on your show, they're going to time the budget bill to expire in the lame duck. So they're actually going to might wait till after the election anyway, before the GOP majority in the House takes over, to ensure that they can't fight for anything substantive, and that they'll fund Pfizer, Ukraine, IRS, and obviously ban states from defining marriage as a marriage.
Let me rephrase the question this way then. Is there anything that they could betray us on that it would existentially cost them?
I mean, I think it costs them in terms of you blur the lines. Democrats get a lot of hype for victories, and you saw that every time they give in to Biden, his numbers actually go up. It happened with infrastructure, happened with the gun bill. They give him victory.
Well, we saw this in the Obama years. They'd go up there, Boehner would go up there and negotiate against himself. Obama's numbers would go up because they looked weak.
It hurt. No,
what I mean is what?
Not with the base.
Okay, that's my question. My question is, okay, can Lindsey Graham just come out of the closet, literally now, and say what we all know to be true, and I'm for meatball surgery on kids and nothing? It's all the same. There is no position that we ask. So the only thing you think that we ask of them is just be called a Republican. That's all we care about.
Because Steve, at the end of the day, would you rather a Democrat? I agree,
so we're a cult.
horrible, but
what you're saying is we are a cult. That's what you are saying.
That is exactly what it is. It's a cult, but it's a worse cult because at least the left believes that your arms were created for Pfizer. Our side believes in nothing but just voting Republican as an end to itself. Steve, there is no, I was hoping that everything we have gone through the last 2.5 years would have created this cathartic moment among primary voters. I will tell you, and we don't even need to go to the false choice of the general election. Even in the primaries, it has been a below average cycle in terms of electing good people in primaries, nominating them, that is. No, I mean, it doesn't matter until there's a concerted effort to show people something new, a new set of issues, a new movement, a new party. At least one of my ideas is going from popular primaries to party conventions, something to shake it up. We will continue doing this in perpetuity.
That's why he's the prophet of woe and lamentation, my friends. Good to see you as always, brother. Take care.
Take care. Won't disappoint.
No, you don't.